Hello, everybody. Welcome to KUAF's The Lunch Hour. I am Jasper Logan here with our guests this month. We have Arsaga's Mill District and we have the band Modeling. And so we want to just welcome you all to The Lunch Hour.
Thank you.
I was thinking about where to start, and I wanted to start with a really hard question for both of you guys.
I was hoping.
And so I was thinking about you guys' names. Both of you guys have very unique names. Modeling is a very unique name, along with like Arsaga's. And so I'm curious as to like how you guys landed on those names. I want to start with you guys because I know Arsaga's is a family name, right? Mm-hmm. And so my name is Jasper Logan. That's like my artist name as well, but it's my real name. So I'm curious. And I went through a lot to like, I went through a portion of like, all right, should I use my real name? Should I create a name? Should I be, I want to know, how did you land on like, no, we're going to use Arsaga's?
It was a long time ago. I have to remember, like in the 90s. And we ran a bunch of names. I wish I could remember some of them. Some of them pretty funny. But in the end, Carrie's from New Orleans, and his family name is Basque. And we love the name, and we wanted it to be our family business, so it was the simplest thing we thought to do. And then we've spun a lot of businesses off of it, but I always had that continuity of Arsaga's, so it just works because it's weird. It's a weird name. It means rocky soil. And he moved here from New Orleans to the Ozarks, and it was very appropriate.
How do you guys?
Our story is not as cool, but I have this poetry book that I read a lot. It's called The Art of Struggle, and it's by this poet, this French poet named, I always get his name wrong, but I think it's Michel Houellebecq. I just love the book. It has an English translation. I can't read, French, but in his book he talks about how people model themselves over time. I mean, in his poem, it's like sort of a materialistic thing. Like he just talked. I mean, because the whole thing is very it's just I don't want to say it's depressing or anything, but it's a lot of like lonely poetry. And so he used the word model to describe how people like change themselves over time, and like I just thought that sounded really cool in his writing. So I wanted our name to be something like that. Like I liked the idea of change and growth, and like I wanted it to be like a verb, like modeling, like something that's like, it sounds like it's moving. So that's where that comes from.
I guess my first question for y'all would be something that kind of goes both ways too. It's a little bit different, but for you it would be, when did you know you wanted to own a restaurant? And for y'all it would be, when did you start playing music, and when did you realize that that's kind of the avenue you wanted to take?
We started playing music whenever we were teenagers. I think Connor was 13 or something like that, and he needed a drummer for his band because the drummer that he had quit, and the talent show was coming up. So I was like, all right, I'll fill in. I think I was 12 at that time or something like that. Same thing with Cuinn. He was 10 or something, right?
Yeah, about 10.
Yeah, so we all started playing around like the teenage years, kind of. I don't know. I think after I quit skateboarding, I was like, you know what? Skateboarding, I used to love that so much, but like when you get older, you can't really do that as well.
And you kind of realize what you're good at, and there weren't many things to choose from. So
for us anyway.
Yeah.
And I think we decided whenever I was 18, I think, that I just wanted to do purely music.
I don't think we ever decided we wanted to have a restaurant until maybe the Mill. That might have been the most intentional restaurant we ever have had. And because we were a coffee house, and we just wanted to keep it simple, and that business model works really well. Restaurants are a little bit harder, And when we opened the depot, it was supposed to be coffee and crepes. We thought, that's simple, we can do that. And it quickly became so much more than that. And Spencer can testify to how busy the kitchen was and hard to work in. It's a tiny kitchen. And, you know, it was okay for crepes, but it wasn't okay for being a production kitchen. I mean, it was tough. So the mill was the answer to, okay, we love South Fayetteville. That building was available. We could own it for the first time. We've always rented our places. And it was big, and we could make it any way we wanted to. So it's been, through COVID, renovation and opening a new business, insane. But we love it. It's crazy, and we love it.
Yeah, so do we. We love our
Oh, good.
Yeah, I like the style of the building a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's also, we've lived here since 2014, so 10 years, or no, 8 years, something like that. And Arsagas is and has been our favorite place to eat
Oh, thanks.
since we moved here. Mostly you guys cater towards like vegetarians, vegans too. There's not a lot of places here that do that, but it's flavorful. Vegan food.
It's good.
It's really
It's good
good.
stuff.
It's really good.
Review over here.
And Spencer's a vegan, so he's really
Nice.
added.
I was going to ask, like, where did that influence come from? That's awesome.
So I've been vegan for 5 years now, and the depot already had like a huge emphasis on vegetarian and vegan food. And so when I came back over, I felt like this was like a really good place to like present my type of food. And they created this space, and so it's my job to just like create food that works well in this space that they've curated, and I'm really happy about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We love all those
Best
options.
vegan food.
Yeah.
Spencer, can you talk to me a little bit about the recipes and the inspiration behind some of those? Were they already created and you just kind of stepped in, or did you come in and add your own flavor to different things? And
Most of the things at the mill right now were recipes that were already created by people who have worked for the Arsagas for a long time, and kind of what we do is, you know, how can we make that work better for the volume that we do? How can we make it more logistically, like, you know, how do we make it make sense in this big restaurant setting versus, you know, what we were doing at the depot?
there's a huge, I mean, Carrie's from New Orleans, and I love New Orleans. I've been there at least 3 times. And so, like, there's a huge Cajun, New Orleans style inspiration on the cuisine and, like, the menu there. Can you just talk a little bit about, like, where that comes from, why it's so important to put that in there?
There's a food connection in his family. His one of his ancestors created Oysters Bienville, and one of them had something to do with making the Sazerac.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's like, I guess, you know, this is somehow in our DNA, because all our kids work in our business too, besides my oldest daughter. So it's just a natural connection. We love Cajun food, and we love red beans and rice. And
And I have another question for y'all. Like, when I listen to your music, I get very strong ambient vibes. And I just want to know kind of the influence behind that and that sound.
I think where it started is film scores, maybe. That was and still is a huge influence on the music we create. So I think that probably started there. But yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of artists now that we still listen to. I know like an artist that's a big influence on me in that ambient genre is William Basinski. He has some really just minimal stuff that is like looped, but changes.
Has a lot of feeling.
Has a lot of feeling. Has a lot of mood, and yeah, he's a big influence on me personally.
How do you guys tap into that for the lyrics and the music? Like, what is it that you're tapping into, the emotions behind? Because you guys, like, the music is very, like, there's a lot of movement in it and a lot of, like, I mean, kind of like roller coastery, like to me. Like there's a lot of like ups and downs in the music, even in the lyrics as well. Like I'm curious where that comes from, and then how do you go to that place to pull that out?
I guess just to keep it like short, like lyrically, it's always just personal experiences, and I tend to use it sort of like as a self-help type thing, almost like a therapy for me to get out a lot of internal struggles and things that I deal with. It's just very therapeutic for me to be able to, it's almost like free-form writing or something, how that just helps get out a bunch of thoughts out of your head that maybe you have, insecurities and all that stuff.
Yeah.
What were you asking about, the dips and stuff, the dynamics of the music? I feel like that comes a lot from film scoring as well. We don't film score things. Like, I mean, we don't like write scores for anything, but like, we watch a lot of scenes from movies. I mean, because we love film scores, there is so much dynamic, like, range in that type of music from like, I don't know, like dialogue scenes where everything is like kind of chill or like really intense stuff with like tension or whatever. Maybe that's where it comes from. I don't know if we like intentionally try to do that. It might just come out naturally.
What comes first, the lyrics or the music?
It's usually, I think it's usually the music, unless I'm using old lyrics that I have just written in a notebook that I haven't used for anything, and then I'll try to like paste it on top of some music, and but I think usually it's the music, maybe. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm just speaking for everyone here. What do you guys think?
I mean, yeah, it's always the music for me, but there's normally like a story behind. It's not just like I go into a room and then I just start fiddling around on like a keyboard or something. I have some kind of intention behind what I'm doing, so there is a story. It's just not, the lyrics aren't there yet. So,
do you mostly come up with the
we all write the stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome. Both of you guys like have this like emphasis on like, pulling from personal experiences. And I think that's like super interesting and super key, because as a creative, there's that way of doing it. Then there's also like the way of like looking outward and being like, oh, my music needs to sound like this in order to get this type of thing. Or like my restaurant or my place of business needs to look like this or feel like this. I want to ask both of you guys, how do you keep yourselves from doing that and stay true to the personal aspect of it?
Not a problem. We've never created the same place twice. I mean, and it's because I think we enjoy creating spaces and making things different every time. If we had to be in a cookie cutter situation, I think it would be, for me, soul killing. I mean, it wouldn't be interesting. But because I am an artist, that's the thing that I like to do with our businesses. And I think Spencer can testify to being an artist with food, so we like to mix it up. We don't like to have the same thing all the time, right?
Yeah, we like to keep it lively, for sure.
Keeping our artistic integrity and also, looking at what everyone else is doing, like that is something like, it's not really like a struggle. It's kind of like balanced, in my opinion, for me. I do take a lot of influence from, popular music and also unpopular music, whatever you want to call it. But to me, it's just all influences. So like whatever, like nothing's conscious. So whatever is happening, and if I like this, I will say, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's not like a conscious decision to say like, I think we should do this because we'll get more fans. Like I don't ever think in that.
Yeah.
No, I don't think any of us do, but
because we all have different influences, when we bring them all together, it kind of just makes like our identity as a band. So like it's not just all coming from me. It sort of mixes with what they're inspired by, and it creates something. I feel like it's something new. It's not just all coming from me or all coming from Ryan or Cuinn. So I think that helps kind of keep our music fresh. I don't know.
That's super interesting. I like that you touched on the idea of like, collaboration, but like, and how it like yields to this like identity the entity. And I think you guys got a similar thing going on too as well with what you bring to the table and then what you bring to the table, Spencer. I'm curious as to, I want to talk a little bit about the landscape of Northwest Arkansas, because you've been here for a long time, like, and you've seen it change and and develop and, you know, get better and maybe get worse in some areas. And then you guys been here for how long? What?
About 8
8 years. Yeah. And so, like, I've been in here the same amount of time, and so, like, even the short time that we've been here, like, it's changed a bunch.
Yeah. Where did you come from?
I came from Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, where'd y'all come
The
from?
jacket.
Oh, yeah.
Little Rock.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah,
Okay, yeah. So I want to talk about one, like, what was it like coming into this space, opening up a coffee shop, and then, you know, you touched on a little bit converting that into restaurants and different things like that. What was that like?
Well, it was a lot of fun. Our first place was on Block Street, right above Hugo's, and just blew our minds because it was suddenly very popular when we opened it. And people were like, do we really need a coffee house? I'm like, yeah, I think so. You know, we've been a few places, they have them, you know, we might want to try this.
When was that? Above Hugo's?
92.
Wow.
92.
Interesting.
And we have opened a new something every 2 years for the past 39 years. So
Oh, wow.
not always a business, but often a business.
Yeah.
Something, an office, you know, workshop, food truck, you know, just. My husband's insane. He has a lot of energy. I don't blame myself for that. I think it's his fault, but I've just kind of tried to keep up with
Yeah.
him. But watching Fayetteville grow has just been phenomenal. It's kind of painful on this side of it because it was a small town, and it was the most progressive town in Arkansas, I would say. Maybe I grew up in Little Rocks, and we gravitated up here because we were back to the land hippies, and we bought land out in Madison County. But it's changed so much. A lot for the good, you know, financially and business-wise, great. But the rest of it is a double-edged sword. And, you know, I'm not thrilled with the traffic or the expense of living here now. And so we just try to keep community and the town in mind when we do stuff because that's important to us and we feel like we support that. And try to promote things that are local and happening and make connections with people who are doing things that really are about Fayetteville.
Really, my job in all of this is to respect the footwork they and a lot of other employees have put in at this point, and it's kind of wild to me to think about. In '92, you guys were starting out. I wasn't even alive yet.
Yes, I'm feeling older all the time. It's true.
And yeah, you know, I'm really happy to be involved in the spaces that they've put together.
I want to follow that up because the every 2 years for 32 years thing that was wild to me. What of all those things, what would you consider maybe like your passion project?
We put everything we had into each place that we opened, and each one was different. And we worked with local craftspeople and artists, and that was the passion of it, creating this space. But the biggest one, the hardest one, the most ambitious one is definitely the mill. And like I said, it's the first one we've ever owned, so it's ours, and we could do whatever we wanted to with it, and it will continue to evolve. It's not done yet, but
I'll be honest, when we first moved here, we never left our apartment, and we still kind of don't leave. Like, we are homebodies, and we moved here for a very specific reason. Same as, you know, Cindy, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it's the most progressive city. And to me, probably has the best weather up here too. We came from Boston. We were going to school there, and we were moving back to Arkansas because it's just too expensive to live there. And we didn't want to go back to Little Rock. So I said, okay, what's the closest thing that we could, or place we could move to in Arkansas that's still close to our family because they live in Central Arkansas. So we just let's move up to Fayetteville. And we got here. And it was definitely a struggle at first because it was a new place. We all had to like find jobs, and we did some other little things. You know, Connor got into photography. We all started teaching music at the School of Rock here, and yeah, it was just kind of a learning experience, and it just took a long time to get really started musically for us. And you know, we were all learning how to produce and record and mix all at the same time. So we really didn't do much until I feel like 2018 is when we started to like, okay, let's quit our jobs, or let's make this a full-time thing, and let's really push it. The landscape of Fayetteville, yeah, it's just tough. We just sit in our apartments learning on YouTube, and
From the windows, it looks really
it
nice.
looks nice.
I've got to get out more.
It's definitely gotten super crowded. Like, I agree with that. Like, super, just, there's people everywhere, which is cool. Like, it's a progressive city for a reason. It's going to continue to get bigger and better, but
The fluctuation of like the music venues has
yeah,
kind of gone up and down a lot. I've noticed that.
That's what I was curious about,
I don't know if I have any more input than that. I just noticed that.
Our first show here was at JR's Light Bulb Club, which is now Pinpoint, which is like, I don't know, that's one venue that kind of closed down. And through the pandemic, I felt like all of them kind of shut down, and there was only George's that is doing music, and now Smoking Barrel is starting up again. And I feel like there's a lot fewer music venues now, and there's like one main venue to play at. But you know, there's new stuff coming. Like Prairie Street Live is very cool. It's, you know, right across from Arsaga's, and I think that's awesome.
Nomads does music.
Nomads, yeah.
DIY places like
Yeah, there's house shows at the Swamp.
I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. It's just we've just noticed that kind of movement, I guess.
Yeah.
I think there used to be a lot more places for house shows. And then with COVID and something just started to shift, and there's just not as many spaces.
That's what it feels like. It feels like there's not a lot, but I feel like it's picking back up a little bit with, like, you know, like I said, Smoking Barrel and places like that.
What is the process like for booking shows and getting into these spaces? Like, has it been hard? Has it been like easy? Has it been like just sending an email? Or, you know,
It's never easy. It's always a little difficult. Actually, the more we do it, you know, the less work we have to do. But we have meetings. We used to have a meeting every Wednesday. We would call that the booking meeting. We'd all have our computers and the software, or this program we use called Asana, which is like a what is it? Calendar, but it's like a project management software or whatever. And we would just think about it. Where do we want to go? When do we want to go there? And it was a team effort, because it used to be just me, and that was really hard. So I was like, okay, I need help. So now we all do it on like Wednesdays at like 11 in the morning. And it's very specific now, and like. And then we just choose the weekends, and we just go over the calendar, and we find places we want to go to. And right now it's just regional and local as well. But yeah, it's not easy. You have to send 1,000 emails, and they never see them, and you have to send like 7 follow-ups. And the reality is that they just didn't see them most of the time. And then they finally read it. Oh yeah, let's do the show. It's like, well, just follow up 10 times, you can get what you want, basically. So that's really the process of how we book.
All my friends, or not all my friends, I have friends that aren't musicians, of course, but my friends that are musicians, they kind of have a favorite show they've ever played. I don't know. I've never played a show, so I can't really speak to the truth of that. They might just be making up stuff to look cool. I have no clue. But do you guys have like a specific time you played live that you really felt like you reached a level that maybe you hadn't before?
The Whitewater show?
Oh, I would say, yeah. There's a venue in Little Rock called Whitewater Tavern. Yeah. It's like a really cool, like quaint, it looks like a house actually. Those shows are always really amazing, and I really appreciate like our hometown like crowd in Little Rock for always like supporting us, and like I'm thankful for those shows. Those are always really good.
I think like, yeah, the energy of that show, like the crowd was really cool, and that made the show a lot more fun for us. Like, we're still gonna, you know, do our best at shows anyway. But like, yeah, the crowd was really into it, and the artist that we played with Corden Jocks. He's like a sample bass hip hop instrumental.
Heard of him?
Yeah, I met him a few times.
Yeah,
He's great.
he's really cool, Jordan. And we played with Way Away, and yeah, I think also it has a lot to do with the artists. Like those guys were just like, I don't know, they were just really chill, really cool. Everybody was very supportive, and that's the feeling that left me, was like that was a really cool show because just all the artists on it.
I think this is a good spot to end it. Thank you guys for participating and doing this interview. And I'm Jasper Logan, Ethan Butler-Hawkins. And this is KUAF's The Lunch Hour, brought to you by Georgia's Majestic. And we're out.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.
All right, so